Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Soka Mom Summit. We have been talking about some really interesting things today, and education is on everybody's mind. There's so much out there that we're trying to figure out that I wanted to bring some experts to talk to you about education and advocacy, how to advocate for yourself as a parent, of a school-aged child, how to advocate for your children and the different situations that they might be in. So I would like you to meet these three amazing women, and they're going to talk to you today about strategies and tips and ways to kind of get through this season that we're in, hopefully unscathed. Let's hope, right? And soon, because we want this to be over with. You want to know more about them. They're going to tell you about themselves. But if you want to know more about them and connect with them on social media and on their websites, you don't have to remember the things that are up on the screen. You just need to go to sokamomsummit.com, and we have an individual page for each speaker. So you can see their social media, their websites, and their bios and get to know them. So first, Hana, please introduce yourself.
Hi, so my name is Kpoto. I'm the parent of two children. I have a 12-year-old son who is on the autism spectrum. He has an IEP, so he receives special education services. I also have a preschool daughter. She's 3 years old, and she also has an IEP. She's receiving services as well. I'm also a senior family educator at a nonprofit here in New York City that provides technical assistance for families of children with disabilities. And I'm really happy to be here today to share some information with families and individuals.
And thank you so much for joining us. Nicole, please tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Grimes. I'm hailing from Brooklyn, New York right now. I've been a science educator, a high school principal, and a university professor for almost 20 years now. I've worked with public schools and private schools and have relationships with charter schools as well. I do a lot of education consulting, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. And, amidst the conversations that we're having, I'm specifically doing a lot of outreach and work supporting new teachers in New York City and working with lots of parents. So I'm honored to be here today to just share some ideas and suggestions for all the parents who are watching to help you navigate this really difficult experience.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking your time to do this. Elle, please tell us about yourself and all of the things that you do.
So I am Elle, and I am in the Maryland area. I am a blogger, a writer, and I have a podcast about home education. I also am a media correspondent, so you can definitely find me in various places. But most importantly, on my blog, I share how to live healthy as well as keep up with your finances and parenting tips. So those are the main 3 things I talk about on my blog, and I invite you to check it out when you have a chance, because my goal is to empower other families. As I learn, I want to help other people learn how to navigate as well. I'm parenting twins. My daughters are 11 years old, and one has sickle cell anemia as well as type 1 diabetes. So I share our journey on my blog and on my social media platforms so that other people can learn how we make it work while homeschooling, as well as just teaching my children in general how we make our lives seem as normal as possible under the circumstances.
And thank you so much for being here. It is always nice to hear from you. So I'm going to put this question out there. When you are an expert in your respective fields, people come to you all the time. Like, they have all sorts of questions, especially right now, because people are spending more time with their children now. Maybe not more than Elle, because Elle spends a lot of time. But people are spending more time with their children now than they ever have. Like, if you've never homeschooled, most of your child's day is spent, especially at the nice early bedtime, like 7:30, 8 o'clock. Most of their day is spent with their teachers.
Right.
And as far as their education goes, they know them really, really well. So then we're thrust into this thing that everybody is coming home. What kinds of challenges have people been coming to you with that you've had to try to help them through? I'll start with Kpana.
So for me, I wear a couple of hats. So, I mentioned that I'm a parent. I'm also the co-founder of an autism parent support group in the Bronx, where I live. And then I also have my blog. So I have families coming to me from different avenues. And some of the main things a lot of families have been mentioning to me is they're very overwhelmed, just trying to balance everything. So there are some children who don't want to sit in front of the computer to receive their speech therapy or their occupational therapy. Just having to make that change in their mode of learning has been very difficult. They don't understand why they can't go outside to play, why they can't go on the school bus, why they can't see their friends at school. So it's been a bit of a challenge. And then you have parents who are trying to juggle, they're working from home, plus they have a remote learning school schedule. And depending on the school, it's a full day. So it's not just 1 or 2 hours. There are some schools here in New York City where it's actually a full day, like 9 to 2. And so it's been very difficult for parents. And then you have some parents that have children, they have really young children that are receiving early intervention services. And I know I spoke to my mom earlier today and she said, I can't do it. I just cannot do it. I'm going to have to delay services. I cannot sit with twin boys in front of the computer to do therapy. I'm going to have to delay services. So parents are having to make some really hard decisions during this time.
Yeah.
So Nicole, what have you been seeing with people? Because I know you have worn so many hats that there's probably a lot of different people that are coming to you with every manner of question. What's the most prevalent one?
Man, I've been in contact with so many different stakeholder groups, past students to supervise, to my graduate students who are early teachers or in pre-service teachers, to university colleagues and school administrators within the DOE and outside the DOE. And there's a general sense of frustration and despair, and just like people are tired, because this has taken such an emotional toll. All the decision making that's involved, in terms of policies, school policies, local policies. I have parents in my network who are constantly reaching out because they're feeling, like they're ready to throw in the towel. They may have limited jobs and multiple kids. You have kids who, as we mentioned before, have IEPs, and their parents are not as well equipped and understand and know what strategies are. They're not intended to. That's why there are special educators that their kids work with in their schools. And now that they've been thrust into space where, yes, maybe work has been shared with them, but they don't really know and have any real handle on like specific education techniques to work with kids who learn differently, or even have a sense of what that means to learn differently and grasp information in different ways. You have parents who don't even have copies of their kids' IEPs, or you have kids who are, undiagnosed, who now for the first time, parents are like realizing like what is wrong with you? Why can't you just sit there and do X, Y, Z or what you're supposed to do? So people are experiencing this upheaval in so many different ways. And, it's difficult to kind of like pass on this like singular message, because the truth is everyone's situation is very unique and very, very different. I know parents who are having real success in their house, but they're in maybe a 2-parent household, right? They live in a home with a backyard. They have multiple devices. So they have a lot of flexibility with sharing responsibilities, working with the kids, or having to kind of teaching and fun, but then I have parents in my network who are single parents and they're juggling a job and they have multiple kids, some of them who have IEPs, and they're really overwhelmed. So, hopefully today, at least at the end of our dialogue, as short as it is, hopefully it's sweet enough to be able to kind of like equip our parents who are watching with just some ideas or some ways how to navigate this space with a little bit more sanity.
Excellent points. Excellent points. So, Elle, you are known for homeschooling. You've got your podcast and everything. So, how many parents, if you will, other than just a lot, have been coming to you and saying, this is insane? You know, I enjoyed your blog and all of that, but this is a real thing. What kind of things have they been coming to you with? What kind of frustrations do people have?
So the number one frustration that I've been getting repeatedly is, how do I work and homeschool my children at the same time?
Yeah.
It seems like it's a tall order to them. And I usually say that for me to make it work, because I clearly have multiple jobs and multiple things that I do, I often get up early before my kids are awake, and we actually start school a little bit later than normal school start. So we start our school day around 10, but I get up around 5 so that I can get my work done before my children even get up. And I know for people who have to work during that typical 8 to 5 period, it can be really hard for them to do that. So I also let people know that when you homeschool, often you have flexibility. I know this is a unique situation because some people are participating in virtual schools and distance learning. And so they do have those core hours. And so that makes it a little bit more challenging, because before all of this, if I needed to be busy in the day and I needed to homeschool in the evening, I had the flexibility to do that. And I know that many parents don't necessarily have that flexibility. And so it's learning how to help their children become self-sufficient almost overnight. And so it's providing tips to kind of guide them into knowing how to turn Zoom on or how to do their lessons, you know, making a schedule that's so routine that they'll know what comes next. Because with kids, if they don't know what comes next, that can often cause anxiety, and it can cause the children to panic. You know, and so having a schedule, even if you're not going to follow it very strictly, but at least letting the child know what's next on the list is helpful to help ease their fears. The next question that I've been getting is, how do I cope? You know, my kid is anxious, I'm anxious, you know, how am I able to do all of this all at once? Because I'm feeling like they're really expecting me to be superwoman or, you know, super dad. And I don't feel very super right now because we're in a crisis. And to those parents, I say, it is okay to take a break. You know, I know for me, even though this is something that I do on a regular basis, I don't normally do it under these conditions, and I can go places. If people visit my channels, you know that I spend a lot of time outside with my kids, and we don't really have that freedom to go exploring like we normally do. And so what I would say is, when you can take a break, if you need to pause and say, you know, I'm going to put this aside for a second. I know Kpana talked a little bit about some parents are having to make difficult decisions to delay things. Sometimes that's best. If it's too overwhelming for you, you have to do what's best for your family. So that's really what those type of questions, I've really been getting a lot of them. And so at the end of the conversation, I actually created a 1-page download for people with tips. So I want to be able to give people those tips. But for the most part, everybody is facing new anxieties that they never faced before. So this is something that we're all in together. And I think it can be helpful to know that you're not the only one trying to overcome and navigate this. We all are. There is nobody an expert at, teaching and learning during a crisis like a pandemic. No one is an expert. We're all learning this as we go. So give yourself grace.
So one of the reasons I wanted to have a panel that was so diverse when it came to education is that everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
So, Kpana, how have you been dealing with your situation? I want to talk about solutions. We've talked about the problems and the issues and how varied they are. But what are some of the things that you have done to create routine or to lessen anxiety in your kids and in yourself?
So one of the things I've done, as Elle had said, about the schedules. So I actually, like, for years I've been, because my son's 12, so he's been getting services since he was 2. So you always hear, create a schedule. Kids on the autism spectrum, they need routine, they need structure. But I honestly really never did a schedule for him at home. But because he was experiencing so much anxiety that he wasn't able to see his friends, he didn't know what was coming next, I went to Target, I got a dry erase board, and I write out the schedule for him and his sister every day, so they know what's coming next, at what time he's going to have certain activities. So it helps him because he's able to look at it and see what's happening next. So the schedule is one idea. Another thing that I've been doing, I've been keeping track of the services that he's getting, when he started getting them, because as you know, under the law, under the special education law, IDEA, he has an IEP, as he's entitled to certain services. So I'm trying to keep track of the services, what has started, what hasn't started. So that's something that parents can do. They can keep a log of what their children are receiving. Any contact that they have with their child's teachers and therapists, they need to keep a note of that. And I think that's really important. Also, advocacy, being tuned into what's happening. I feel like an informed parent is an empowered parent. So there's a lot of federal guidance coming out. There's state guidance coming out. There's guidance coming out from the school districts. So as parents, I think it's important for us to stay plugged into what's happening, so we know what our rights are and what the rights of our children are. Also, one thing I've been doing just for myself is just taking a break. Sometimes just taking a moment. I've been doing Zumba online through Zoom. I never thought I would be doing Zumba through Zoom, but I figure it's something I can do once a week, and it helps me to unwind and just kind of stay sane to a certain degree. I try not to watch the news continuously. I'm this person who has to stay plugged in. I have to know what's going on. But what I found was happening is it was affecting my blood pressure. Like, there was sometimes I was feeling very anxious as well. So I've been trying to pull back a little bit as well. So those are some tips I would say. Just try to find moments to pull back if you can, create a schedule, and also just keep track of all the services and supports, and stay in contact with your child's therapists and teachers and providers. And also, for children receiving special education services, there are parent centers in every state. So try to connect with the parent center in your state, and you can go to parentcenterhub.org to find a parent center in your state, and they can kind of help you to navigate this time.
Yeah, I want to add some stuff to both even Kpana shared. I can't talking of advocacy in terms of reaching out to getting services that that you're entitled to. The truth is, especially in a system like New York City, the system is overloaded. If you're a parent and you're waiting and you're waiting for communication from your school, your child's special ed teacher or the principal, don't wait. This is a time for you to step up and take charge. As they say, closed mouths don't get fed. So if there's an issue and you need support, please reach out to that child's school principal. The principal will get in touch with like the deputy superintendent or whoever is in the district and connect you to and they'll try to figure out a way to continue to have services provided to your child. Really, right now, what I'm hearing, because I'm trying to keep my ear to the ground, it's a lot of stuff is happening on a case-by-case basis. Right. So don't wait back at home and expect you're going to get this grand email with like exactly what you need to do every single day. That's not happening. Right. The other thing I try to tell parents when reach out, Eva said it well, like you have to give yourself grace. I've been working with and mentors for about 15 years. And what I can say to a parent is it takes a trained teacher a good 2 to 3 months to get into a flow with a group of kids working through a schedule. So, as to the excellent suggestion, about making sure that you have a schedule, know that it's not going to go well every single day. Guess what? I was a teacher for a long time, right? Year 15, there were still bad days because that's just the nature of teaching and learning. It's never, we never get to this point where everything is just effortless and fluid, right? That's because we're people and there's so many layers and skills needed to be a great teacher. And you're trying to do your best under really, really taxing and trying, emotional conditions. So you have to, as both Pan and Eva said, you have to be like, you know what, today's not a good day, and that's okay because there's going to be a tomorrow. It will come. Give yourself and allow yourself that degree of flexibility to recognize, look, I am not a trained teacher, and the trained teachers I know right now, they're struggling. So educators absolutely don't expect you to now become expert and act like trained teachers every single day. I also wanted about just the idea of having a routine and having a schedule. It's something that I talk about in my e-guide, my homeschooling e-guide a lot, and also through my lives that I've been doing. The importance of having this consistency of routine in the home. The great thing, I know it doesn't feel that way right now, but there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of independence naturally built into this model of homeschooling. You get to start and finish when you want, right, with your day. So your day does not necessarily have to model your child's full school day. But I know that that's one of the tricky things right now because there are some schools that are sending a lot of work, and there's some schools that, they just send assignments on Monday and then you just have to turn things on Friday. So again, every situation is different and unique. But come up with some routine or schedule, whether you're writing it on a chalk wall, a whiteboard, or you're just writing it on plain paper and sticking it on a wall or a fridge, of a schedule that your child and you are going to follow. A parent that I've talked to recently said, after viewing one of my lives, said to me, I took some of your suggestions and I couldn't believe it. I sat down with my toddler, right, and explained, look, you have a schedule, mommy schedule. All right, mommy has a work meeting. When you're done with this, and if mommy's still on the phone, this is what I want you to do. All right, so the idea of explaining to kids and providing them with a roadmap, because as it was said before, kids don't do well with uncertainty. They don't do well with the unknown. One of the fundamental, teaching practices when you talk to new teachers and you train them is at the beginning of a class, you welcome the class and you tell what happened in the next 40 minutes. You give them the roadmap so they know what to expect. Do the same with your child. And that kind of lends itself nicely to this idea of communication, the importance of communication in this time. Start off with a family meeting if you haven't had one already, or now it's time to have one if you haven't. And this is when you can communicate with your children like, look, we're all of us are navigating this really, uncertain, trying to learn things and figure out and still keep my job, and I'm trying to help you do work, and we're in this together. And some days are going to be tougher than others, but know that I still have expectations of you. You still have responsibilities, and I'm going to do my best to work with you throughout this, and also, folding in like the daily check-ins and the daily wrap-up meetings to like talk about what was accomplished during the day, making sure you give your child praise, when they get through things and they check things off the list, and giving them a sense of what to expect in the coming days. I like the idea that I've seen, a lot of when we talk about this idea of creating a routine or schedule, we're thinking about at 9 o'clock you do this, or 11 o'clock you do X, Y, Z. You could also think about scheduling your time and structuring your time with your child in both times. So maybe 4 blocks a day, right? So from 9 to 11, you're going to eat and brush your teeth, and you're going to make sure you just do some math and read, right? Go. I don't care what order it happens, but generally this is what we're aiming to happen in that block. I think that idea of recognizing, look, you do have a lot of flexibility with this routine and plan that you're sharing with your children, and it may seem daunting, but like I said before, it takes time you'll tweak it. And then at some point, it's going to feel a little bit smoother and a little bit more fluid. And that, and that's okay to give yourself time, whether it takes 2 weeks or the whole month, that's completely okay.
So, Hana, what do you want to get out of the experience of having your children home with you? What do you want to come out of this with? Because we're praying we'll come out of COVID-19 sooner rather than later.
Right.
What do you want to come out of this? You don't want to have any negative feelings or anything. What's the positive thing that you want to bring?
The positive that I want to bring out of it is just being able to connect with my children in a way that I may have not been able to do before. Because my hours, like, so when I do work, they're very long. It's a really long day. By the time I get home, it's almost 7 o'clock. And then when you look, it's dinner and the bedtime. So I'm trying to find times now that I'm home to be able to connect with them in ways that I wasn't able to do before. So that's one thing I'm really hoping I can do during this time. And that's one thing that I would say is a positive, just being able to spend more time with them.
And Elle, what is something, because this is still different for you. This is still, something you've never really done before, as far as you can't go all the places that you used to go. Like, I would be out just generally and be like, oh my God, like you're just out here. And because you really would be everywhere with your kids. So how are you bringing the positive out of that? Because a lot of the positives came from how much you were able to do. How do you find the positives in the things that you're not able to do?
So what I've tried to do is give my kids new options. And so one of the new options that they have is Skyping, FaceTiming with their friends, or Zoom, or even doing some of the virtual field trips. Although they're not quite the same, it does fill their time with something that's new and something that they've never experienced before. I also want to get them outside. So we are blessed to have a big backyard. And so as a family, we try to go out and play kickball. Our backyard is fenced in, so we feel like it is a safe option for us. And so we also have a gratitude jar where we put things that we're happy about, because I think it's very important to kind of retrain your thinking. And so while we can't go other places, we can think about, what is going well. We can also read about other places. My kids are avid readers. And what I loved growing up is that I was able to read and feel like I was taken to another place. And so that's really what books can do. And so I'm really giving them the opportunity to kind of explore with online reading, because many like Audible and Reading Rainbow, there are different programs that are now available for free for a limited time where you can get books. Our library through Overdrive allows us to check out books, sometimes very new releases. And so we're listening to those books as a family. Sometimes we're listening to the audiobooks together and we're talking about it. We're talking about, hey, I really liked when they said this. We're having dialogues about new experiences that we're having as a family. And so that's kind of how we've redirected our attention. We've also started to cook more together. Last night we made a homemade pizza. And so we're utilizing our time to get to know each other in different ways with what we can under our, the roof of our home in a small, tight space, but we're still exploring. The internet allows us to do that like never before. So there are so many lives and so many musicians that are going live. Yeah. And so we're exploring what other people are doing. And so we're learning through social media and going on field trips that way. It's not a typical field trip, but hey, you can call it what you want. Just have a good time.
That makes a lot of sense. Nicole, so as a former educator, what if you found yourself sending your kids home to be with their parents, and you're going to get them back either at the end of the school year or at the beginning of the next school year? What would you want ideally to get back? What would you want the parents to give you back after having spent all of that time under one roof with their kids the entire day? What kind of student do you want to get back into your classroom?
I think it's really important for parents to spend a lot of time having really open and honest but age-appropriate dialogue with their children about what's happening in the world, the emotions that they're feeling, helping them to add vocabulary their emotion toolkit. I think it's safe to say that parents are really now thrust in a situation where they're like, wow, this is what teaching is like. I never had a clue. I'll never yell at me so-and-so again. Or I'm gonna make sure I give her a Christmas card, from here on end. I think I want parents to know that we, as educators, we understand, to have trust in us that schools, to educators individually and schools and the school districts are going to make, the necessary changes to adapt to, this upheaval academically. And by that, I mean, for example, I've been in touch with people in my network who they're actively already updating the current year's curriculum and amending, the upcoming school year's curriculum because they know get through all of this content, right? There's content that just cannot be taught, virtually. Of course, standardized testing has been canceled, right? So that presents its own layer of, issues and concerns. But I want parents to know that schools are going to be making adjustments, for this upheaval in, having a stable learning environment, so to speak. There are going to be a lot of changes next year. What those changes are, only time will tell, and they will absolutely be district and school specific. But it's just riding the wave and having faith and trust in your school, knowing that they know that they have a big task ahead of them to, make concerted changes and make the concerted effort to ensure you and give you the confidence that when we get your child back into the classroom, whether it's June or September, we know that we're coming. We hope that we're getting a child who, maybe is now formally embraced a new appreciation. I've actually been hearing a lot of stories about kids who were previously non-participatory in a school who kind of opened up and blossomed virtually, right? Because now, sometimes the screen becomes an equalizer. If you are a kid who has a stutter or an IEP, now you're not like in the spotlight every single day in the classroom. You don't have to deal with the jitters of being scared when you get called on. Cold call. I do know I have heard stories that their kids were thriving. So I hope that parents continue to do their best to have these conversations and have kids go back to school. Really appreciating, of course, as a safe space and a space of learning. We know that sadly that's not true for all kids. All kids don't necessarily regard school as a safe space, and some of them feel great comfort in being in their home. We also know that there are kids who don't necessarily view their home as always being a safe space. Right. They're anxious and ready to go back to school, and they will continue to spend the rest of this time grieving school experiences, proms and graduations and special ring ceremonies and all these other events. I think it's just most important for us to remember the learning will happen, that will be figured out, but to just stay in tune with your child emotionally and pay attention, to how they're navigating each day. Middle school kids and even the younger ones, especially middle school though, that's when they're starting to kind of form this, an identity and they're getting a sense of who they are in the world, especially in relation to their peers, and auntie and grandma become less and less important, and their peers become more and more significant. So they absolutely need the time now to stay in touch with their friends. So give them their time and the space to have their phone calls and their virtual, meetups with their peeps and whatever. Give them that space. But you also want to have balance too. And Eva brought up some nice examples like this. As much as social media is equipping us with so many outlets to have fun and just feel a little bit more alive and not as overwhelmed, it's okay to take a break sometimes and just go back to old school ways of spending time one-on-one with your kid or as a family. So whether it's cooking or busting out the Monopoly board, right, or playing Taboo or whatever it is, that there are other ways that you can take advantage of the time to build and bond with your children. Homeschooling really does give you the opportunity to do that in ways that you've never done before, including talk about topics that you want to talk about with your kid that's more sensitive that schools may not want to touch. And now you have the opportunity to do so, in a safe space using language and examples that you feel comfortable, having with your kid. It really, again, I said before, it does not necessarily feel that way to a lot of parents, but there are a lot of benefits to homeschooling. And I would love, for my final message to impart to parents, recognize the flexibility you have, recognize the independence that you could continue to foster with your child, through having a schedule and through communication of what to do and what not to do at what times of the day. Not every day is going to be a great day, and that's completely okay for you or your kid, and that's okay. And maybe one day you might have to say, nobody's doing any work. We're just going to watch TV all day, and that is okay. Because the name of the game is survival and taking care of this and this. So, yeah, hang in there, guys.
So, Elle, what would be the last message you would give on this discussion to really have parents feeling like they're empowered, they can advocate for their own child, and they can really find a way to maybe not make the best of this, but make it an experience that's worthwhile?
So I would say every day, take it one day at a time. So every day is going to be a little bit different than the day before. So if you as a family could journal, you don't have to do a written journal if that's not your thing. You could do something with your phone and record it. It could be audio only, but somehow find a unique way to capture these moments and capture the positive side. And I think it's important to say something nice to each other each day. I think we are uniquely spending a large amount of time together, and sometimes that can be frustrating. So finding a way to insert positive moments verbally and, physically, exercise with your kids. There are tons of apps that are completely free with exercises that you can do in your home. So try those out as a family, because exercising really helps to get those endorphins moving so that we can be more positive. And so I think we have to be intentional about the relationships that we are having with our children. And so this is a unique time in our lives that, we are stuck together, and so utilize that time in a positive way. And so my last thoughts are, basically find something that you love that you can share with your kids. Maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's a movie, maybe it's a song, maybe you come up with a family dance. TikTok is all the rage now. So maybe that's your thing, but come up with something that you can do with your kids where you're connecting with them. I think that is the most important thing about this time.
So, Hana, what would you say would be your parting words for people who are feeling a little frustrated, especially when they have children with an IEP and they have a new situation at home? What would you say to help them feel more positive about the situation?
I would say go easy on yourself and realize and recognize that you're doing the best that you can. There's only so many hours in the day, and there's only one of you. There's only so much that you can do in a day, and don't be afraid to speak up. So if a school sends you a schedule that's just insane, feel free to push back and feel free to let them know what your situation is and that you're doing the best that you can. And you may not be able to stay plugged in for 4 or 5 hours of the day, but you're doing the best that you can. So I think as parents, we really need to go easy on ourselves and really try our best to use this time to stay connected with our children, with our family, and with our circle of support. And if we have access to the technologies, try to stay as connected as possible with our loved ones, especially the ones that we're not able to see in person right now. So I know there are a lot of parents that are, stressed out and they're feeling overwhelmed. I know this may sound cliche, but I really feel that we are going to get through this, and we should take comfort in the fact that we're safe at home. We're safe at home. So it's something that we are going to have to ride a wave. As Dr. Nicole said, we're going to have to ride this wave, and it's not going to be easy, but we really have to just try to go as easy on ourselves as possible during this time.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. I know we didn't have a lot of time because honestly, this could be a whole summit by itself. Because this is a lot. to take in.
Mhm.
And from the frustrations I've heard from my peers who are parents,
Mhm.
I mean, they're asking me, so how did you homeschool? And I'm going, not like this. You know, I could go outside. I could
Right.
go to the store if we needed paint or if we needed something. It wasn't like this. So this is something that, yes, you could have an entire conference
Mhm.
just on this. But I really hope that in this short time, everyone has gotten some ideas and some encouragement
Mhm.
and several different viewpoints for you to add into your collective thought about the situation that we're in right now. So I said before that you can find everyone's bio on socamomsummit.com. But what I would like is for each person to say what you're working on right now and what you feel you're passionate about that you want to share with the community. I will start with Kpana.
Okay. So right now I'm just working on more content to be able to deliver and connect with my, what I consider my Sailing Autistic Seas family. So that's something that I'm working on right now. And so just make sure you stay plugged into sailingautisticseas.com and definitely with me on all my social media platforms.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being here with
You're welcome.
us. Elle, tell us what you have going on, and please don't forget that book. I know that it's here, and I didn't hear author when you were talking. So,
So I have finally finished my book. It is called The Sickle Cell Coloring Book for Kids, and it is a guide about sickle cell and how it affects the body. So I'm going to give everybody a link that they can go to. I talked a little bit about some of the coping skills that I've been giving people, where I have a download. It'll also connect you with the landing page for my book so that you can sign up for updates. So I haven't actually released it yet, which is why I didn't say author, but it is going to be released within the next week. So it is definitely on the horizon, and I'm so happy about it. But the link that I want you guys to go to is a bit.ly link. It's bit.ly CC Soca Mom Summit. So CC for Cleverly Changing, Soca Mom Summit. And that will take you to a page where you can find out more about my podcast. I actually did an episode with Eva, and I've linked that to the page. And so you can get my download, you can sign up for updates about my book. But, it's definitely a time where I'm just excited. This is a special time for me where I am able to really give back to the sickle cell community. And I'll be doing more partnerships with the Sickle Cell Consortium. So they have an education page, because for sickle cell children, for children with sickle cell, being home often and in the hospital, and just, what we're going through in this time, this is something that families with children with compromised immune systems often have to deal with. We usually can deal with it with more support from families, but, right now we're dealing with it alone. And so that part is unique, but there will be more things coming out that I can't wait to tell people about as the resources are being prepared.
fantastic. And I just have to say, as soon as you write it, you're an author. That's it. Like, people add stuff to their bios when they've done less. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just putting that out there. So, Dr. Nicole Grimes, tell us what you have going on. And I know you have several resources for parents and other educators and students. Tell us what you have happening.
Right. So right now I'm a professor at CUNY Lehman. So my students are actually all teachers. So I'm obviously doing a lot of work and working to support them through this experience, because I kind of serve as like a field supervisor. And I also have other first and second year teachers that are teaching those whom I work with regularly, trying to help them navigate this really, really, crazy, crazy space. More recent, more work. And so I'm happy to share that I've just released my first e-guide called Navigating Homeschool Hell, Part 1. And in it, I share it's compact, but I share lots of like very tangible, concrete ideas and suggestions in terms of like what does good communication look like in this time, actual examples of schedules with your kids, actual examples of rewards and reward systems that you can implement to kind of motivate and incentivize your kids to, get through their work, get through the day. I share information about how to convert your home into a more optimal learning environment, and also include a lot of very specific K through 12 resources, including apps and websites that that you can lean on to provide lots of videos and show activities and games to keep them busy when you need to. So that e-guide can be purchased on my website, drnicolegrimes.com. Very simple, very easy to follow. And I hope that, you check it out, because there's some really good stuff in there.
Thank you so much. I really hope that everybody, I know they probably didn't get a chance to take notes because by this time of day, they're like, I don't want to see another pencil. I don't want to see another piece of paper. But if you're watching this on the replay, you can rewind this. You can take notes, because hopefully this has brought up some ideas and some thoughts that you can implement in your own home. Thank you all so much for doing this. I know we went over time, but you guys were amazing, and every minute was worth it. So I really appreciate you. Everyone, thank you for joining us for the Soka Mom Summit.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of the day. We appreciate you. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.